Think about the worst thing that could happen to you during a speaking test. If you answered to go blank or to get blocked during my speaking test, this is the video for you. Keep on watching. Hi there, my name is Mónica and I'm an English teacher in the south of Spain, and in today's video I want to give you 10 tips to help you never get blocked in a speaking exam. Well, there's actually many different things that we can do before the day of the exam and other things that we can do during the exam is taking place, okay? So we're going to start with things that we can do beforehand. Tip number 1, practice beforehand. Well, this is a cliche, but obviously preparation is key in order to feel confident and feel more prepared when you're facing a speaking exam. So go to Google and find out which are the most popular or frequent topics asked in the area where you live, okay, and make a list. So they might be environment or health or education, right? And write them in separate cards. And at the back of that card, you can write keywords or very, very important words in connection to that topic. So for example, if it's the topic of healthy living, you can write balanced diet, cut down on sugar, life expectancy, okay? Very important words that you might want to use in your speaking exam, okay? And then practice at home. Every day you pick a card and you say, okay, let me see how many words can I remember from my list, so that when the day of the exam comes, you will be more than ready to use them in your speaking test. Ideally, practice these monologues or topics at home with real time, okay? So set up a timer, set the time, just say 3-4 minutes depending on the area where you live, and practice those monologues at home with real time. It will give you an idea of how well you can deal with the topic. Tip number 2 is a basic one, but so important, and that is rest, okay? So forget about going out with your friends the night before. You will have time to do that afterwards, okay? But make sure that you get your rest and your good night's sleep the day before the exam. It's essential to be rested and your brain needs to be clear in order to do a great performance. Tip number 3 would be to find a speaking partner. Whereas you can practice the monologue at home by yourself, the dialogue part is a little bit more complicated. So if possible, try to find yourself a speaking partner, ideally the person that you're going to take the test with, okay, and meet to practice these conversations that they have been asked in previous years. Now, obviously you won't know what topic are you going to be given, but you may want to decide already how are you going to start your dialogue, okay? How are you going to say hello to each other, and how are you going to end your conversation? So for example, you can practice ways to greet each other. Hey mate, how are you doing? How are things? Well, not too bad, I can't complain, okay? So that at least that part of the dialogue is fixed and you feel more confident. And the same way for the final part of your conversation. In every dialogue, or in most of the dialogues, you will have to agree on something or reach an agreement. So try to find out with your partner what expressions are you going to use in order to reach an agreement. What are you going to say? Are you going to say, okay, that sounds like a plan, or that sounds great, or okay, we have a deal, okay? But you need to agree on something to say so that it makes it easier for you. The next tip that might sound a little bit strange is to visualize yourself in the exam. Yes, you heard right. I want you to picture yourself doing the exam, okay, and imagine everything around you. I want you to imagine that you are sitting down in front of your partner, that you are facing your teacher, okay? I want you to imagine the topic that you have in front of you and actually visualize a positive result. I want you to imagine that you are doing a great job. This, for some reason, although it sounds very, very strange, you need to believe it because it's true. The power of the mind is very, very, very strong. So you need to imagine a positive outcome, and I promise it works. Now, let's move on to the things that you can do while you're doing the test, okay? So imagine you are given the paper, and then it's time for you to get ready for your speaking test. Now, the next tip is to read carefully. Read the task carefully and find out what you need to do exactly. Remember, in every task, especially the dialogue, you will have a clear objective. So identify that objective, that function, and write it down. So the question is, do you have to give advice? Do you have to recommend something? Do you need to invite someone? Do you need to suggest an activity? Okay, what is it? And then for every function, so imagine you say that it's to give advice, okay? You're going to write down on a piece of paper different expressions to give advice according to your level, okay? So for example, say that your level is B2. Obviously, try not to go for the plain expression, you should, because everybody's going to do that. You need to be different. So maybe you can say, well, if it were up to me, I would do this, okay? So that would be an expression to give advice that is proper or that is correct for your level. Say that the function that you have in your activity is to suggest an activity. So write down different expressions to suggest things. How about doing this? I was wondering if you wanted to do that. Okay, so write down a list of different expressions for every single function in your dialogues. The next tip is use your preparation time wisely, okay? So in most areas in Spain, you're going to be given some time to prepare your tests and a piece of paper where you can write down a few ideas to help you with your monologue and your dialogue, okay? But make sure that those minutes, in the south of Spain, for example, is 15 minutes to prepare both tasks. Make sure that you use that time wisely. Do not waste any single second, okay? So write down a few ideas, but remember, never write full sentences. And I always see this with my students. They start writing books, you know, they start writing the Bible or Hamlet, you know, but those books are already written. Remember, just ideas, just keywords and expressions that they're going to help you later. Why? Because if you have a long list or text written with full sentences, first of all, you're not going to have enough time to prepare both tasks if you write absolutely everything. And secondly, and more importantly, while you are doing the exam, you won't be able to find anything, because if you get lost, okay, you will try to find, okay, which is the next point, and you won't see anything because you're going to see a lot of words and a long test, and it's not going to help you at all, okay? So make sure that you write a very short diagram with just key expressions and words to help you. The next tip is to check your notes. Yes, you heard me right. The previous tip was to prepare, you know, a few notes to help you, but can you believe it that in many cases, students get so nervous that they never check their beautiful notes? It's true. You might be spending, 15 minutes of your time writing beautiful expressions and nice words, but then when the moment comes, you are so nervous that you don't even look at your paper. Do not make that mistake. Take your time, and if you need to stop and check your notes, it's okay. And it's okay as long as you never start reading everything from your notes, okay? Remember, it's a speaking test, not a reading test. But you can take your time to quickly check your notes and just carry on and move on to the next point, okay? But it's a shame that many times when the exam comes, when I check the notes of my students, I see beautiful structures, fantastic vocabulary that it was never said in the speaking test, and that is a pity, okay? So remember to do that. Check your notes. The next tip is about the moment in the speaking test when you are feeling that you are going blank, that you don't know exactly what you're going to say next, and you need to gain time, okay? So the next tip is to use fillers, okay? To use fillers. What are fillers? Fillers are palabras de relleno in Spanish, okay, or words that are going to give you enough time to think about what to say next, okay? So for example, imagine your partner has asked you a question and you need time to process it and to think what you're going to say next. You can say things like, okay, let me see, let me think, let's see what we can do, okay? So expressions that are going to give you a little bit extra time in order to know what to say next. Another technique that you can do is actually when you hear a question from your partner, you can double check that you heard the question right. So you can repeat what the other person has said. For example, you can say, are you saying that blah, blah, blah? Are you trying to say that we should do? Okay? So basically what you're doing is making sure that you understood the other person, but at the same time you're gaining time in order to know what to say next. Another useful expressions that you can use when you are explaining yourself or maybe doing the monologue part is, what I'm trying to say is that blah, blah, blah. What I mean is that da da da. At the end of the day, everybody wants to da da da. Okay? At the end of the day is al fin y al cabo, okay? And al fin y al cabo is giving you some extra time in order to know what to do in the next second. Our next tip is hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. What do I mean by that? Imagine that you get a super tough topic, say space exploration or genetic engineering or artificial intelligence, okay? If you saw that topic, probably you would freak out at the moment because you would be totally not ready for it. But if you make a list of possible terrible topics, okay, try to prepare them in advance. What vocabulary would you use? What expressions would you say? And most importantly, what ideas would you develop in your monologue in case they asked you for that? So if the moment came and they asked you for something tough, you would be a little bit more prepared and a little bit more ready. Finally, imagine you do get blocked or you go blank in your exam. You can do two things. Number one, you can freeze. You can go into panic, you can start shouting and crying and speaking in Spanish, or you can actually take this opportunity to show your teacher your real level, okay? And it's going to give you extra points. So what do? You tell them that you have actually gone blank, but tell them in English in a very calm way, okay? Showing your vocabulary. So things that you can say, I'm terribly sorry, I've just gone blank. Could I have a minute? Second thing you can say, I'm so sorry, I have lost my train of thought. Another one, my mind just went blank. Sorry, could I have a second? Or why not, you could actually involve your partner and ask him or her a question. And you could say, excuse me, what was I saying, right? So instead of just taking it in a negative way, just see it as an opportunity to show your real level of English. Okay, so this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching it right until the end. You are a champion. If you liked this video, if you found it useful, please let me know, okay? And leave me a comment down below telling me if you have ever gone blank in a speaking exam, and most importantly, what did you do to fix it? Okay, see you in the next video. Take care and see you very soon. Bye!